Hello and welcome to Dice and Dudes. Today, the dudes review Tidal Blades Heroes of the Reef. This is a pretty interesting game. It's got a lot of mechanics going on to it. It's had a whole lot of hype built up around it, and we wanted to go ahead and talk about it. This was my board game of the week for Game Vault, so I wanted to go ahead and get a little more into the nitty gritty of the game so you guys can see whether or not it's right for you and whether or not it deserves a spot in your collection. I'm going to go ahead and show the stats of the game one more time. Now I am going to be doing the review itself. I'm also going to be doing the producing, so if things are a little bit slow, I apologize. We're trying out a few new graphics and a few new simple things just to make things a little easier for people to follow. Trying out a new overhead camera system, so hopefully you guys will like what you see. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to explain the various areas of the board very quickly, and then I will quickly explain and show you like kind of how one turn would work, and then we will go into the various things that I like about the game. I have a few different categories of how I rate my games and how I decide how I like them. I also do have a way to finally show you the collective scores of how I feel about a game at the end. So a few people have asked me to do that, so I do have that set up for you guys as well. So the finale of the video will actually have a setup for that, so you guys can see how I felt about the game. All right, let's go ahead and look down at the board. Now, as you guys can see, this game takes quite a bit of table space, but it is quite beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to go and show you a few quick areas, and then I will show you the player area after that. So right over here, up here, this is going to be the Champions track up here. Over here, you have the Citadel of Time. Above that, you have the current available challenges that are face up. Over here in the Chronoseum, this is one of the spots where you can send your people, your workers for worker placement. The Lamar Stadium, or Lamalar. No, I said it right the first time. The Lamar Stadium, where you send your people, is another area where you can send your workers. Same thing with the Droska Ring, and same thing over here with the Fold. I'm going to explain again about how this stuff kind of works in just a minute. Let's go ahead and look over at the player board real quick. So if you look over here, this is Echo's player board. You have your player deck with your starting cards out. You always start out with this shell shield out, and we're setting this up like this is our first game that we've ever played. So we actually have this card out as well. You can you'll note that there is a little gear symbol here at the top to show you, or I think it's supposed to be a compass, but a compass symbol here at the top that shows you that this is the starting card, the starting recommended card. Each of these dials will actually be set down here at the beginning of each game to these green spots. But as you can see, each one has numbers on it. So this is to track your focus, your spirit, your resilience, and your synergy, which are the various attributes in the game. You're also going to start with one of these cards. This card here is actually going to be one of your it's going to be your secret objectives in the game. This can score you some bonus points. And then we have your starting challenge cards. Now, depending on who you are, the three challenge cards you'll get are going to be different. They're always going to be the starting challenge cards, at least when you start the basic game. So Echo here has one for the Lamar Stadium. He has one here for Droska Ring, and he has one here for the Chronoseum. Now, each of these will have one of the three cards, but the way that you do these cards is different. If you look at these cards here, you can see right here are the symbols that you will have to roll on the various dice that are in the game in order to complete this objective. Down here shows you what stadium it's at. This is what the fighting style bonus can give you. We'll talk about that a bit later. Victory points at the end of the game, and this will show you what type of skills it has. That one may be a little difficult to see, but yeah, you can see that one there. Has these symbols down here as well. as when you complete one of these, you will actually tuck it in under the corresponding spot here, leaving just the bottom available to see. Okay. Now this is not going to be a comprehensive rules explanation of the game itself. This is going to be more along the lines of just kind of showing you everything a little bit and then talking about the game. There are quite a few really, really good ways to learn this game. I actually highly recommend John Gets Games. I like the way that he teaches games. It's kind of the way that I'll teach games. It's minimal of rules at the start and then playing the game for one time. That way you can actually see how a couple of turns goes. But you may pick up mostly how to play when with this, but this is not designed as a how to play. So let's go back to the board. Okay, so pretending here that Axel, which is going to be this guy right here, is going to be our starting player. Each of these players, each player is going to start. You're going to have your little guy here. I hope you guys can see that. And you'll have a couple of these as well. Now, these are your action discs. Now, your action disc here will go under your guy, and when you place him on the board, you're going to be placing him with the two discs under him, and I'll show you what happens when you move him again. You'll actually be leaving one of these discs behind, kind of like Istanbul or Yokohama. That may not mean a lot to you guys, but you'll get to see how that works in just a moment. So on Axel's turn, he gets to decide where he wants to go. Here in the Chronoseum, I can go to one of these 4 spaces. If these 4 spaces would be filled, I could still go to the Chronoseum, I just wouldn't gain the bonus. These are actually bonus spaces. So this bonus space here would get me a blue die. This space here would get me a red die. This space here would get me one of the novice die and a food. You can see that right there, food. I'm kind of white, so the food may not show up too well. Then down here you would actually get an additional stunt card. Now on top of here, you won't be able to see it as I'm trying to show the whole board. You're always going to get the bonus that's here. So the bonus here for the Chronoseum would be to draw a stunt card. So if I were to bring Axel over here and decide, ooh, I have these 2 dice to start the game. I really, really want to be able to roll more dice for this challenge. I would want to go ahead and I would want to come over here and take this blue die. So I'd take this blue die and I'd add it here, and then I'd get the bonus action of the Chronoseum to take a stunt card. Now I'm going to switch over to the player board real quick so I can show you the stunt card. So the stunt card here is going to have various effects. So this guy, you can only play 1 a turn, and you can play it at any point during your turn. This particular card would give me the reward shown up to my spirit trait level. So right now my spirit trait level is 1. So right down here, maybe a little difficult to see with the glare on the card. That would let me refresh one of my dice. The one above that would give me a shell. We'll talk about the shell shield here in just a minute. Up here, I would get another challenge, and up here I would actually get to raise, if I hit level 4, I get to raise one of my chosen attributes here by 1. So that's pretty cool. So I'd take this stunt card and I would keep that secret from the other players. And now I have an optional choice. I can decide whether or not I want to go ahead and complete a challenge. So I would say, yes, I'm here at the Chronoseum, so I can only do a Chronoseum challenge unless you have another stunt card or something that lets you do something else, or an ability card. But I'm going to do this one, okay? So we're going to look over here at the player board real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to do this challenge. Now, this challenge is unlock the Yamazi crate. This actually requires here that I get 2 synergy rolls. Now, you see this one here with a solid line around it, means I have to complete that one. In order to complete this challenge, I have to do that one. This one here with the dotted line around it, right there, that one is, I can push it in order to get that ability as well. Okay, so what I would do is, I'm going to leave that right there for a moment. I'm going to take my 3 dice, and I'm going to roll them. So and I would also roll the difficulty die depending on the turn. So the first one of the game, it's this white difficulty die. It's got an X on 6 sides and it's got 2 blanks, so I'd roll that too. So I got an X, okay? This is a perfect opportunity for me to show you how the shell shield works. So we're going to pretend that this is Echo doing this, okay? So right here, I would actually be able to complete both of these right now. but I have this X symbol. Okay, that's not good. All right, now if I leave it be, I'm going to have to permanently lose one of my dice. It's going to go away and I'm not going to get it back. Right now these dice will be spent, but they will not be used. Okay, so if I want to avoid that, I will take a shell and I will add it here to my shell shield. It can only have a max of 6 at the end of a turn, so you'd have to discard down to 6. But the shell shield will give you other abilities that you can actually remove shells and take other abilities that you can use too. We're not really going to get into that too much in this video, most likely. But then adding that shell would make me remove this dice. So this dice, I wouldn't have to take the effect from. So I would just gain this benefit here. So since I completed these two, I would actually get to raise my synergy level by 2. When I reach this level right here, you're probably not going to be able to see the little symbol on it. I would actually get to draw 2 cards here, choose one, and then add it to my character ability. So let's say I added that one there. See if you guys can see that a little bit. So I'd have a second character ability there. This one I would put on the bottom of my deck, and I would be able to draw later. And then I'd go up to this level here. This is showing level 2 now. I'm not quite at level 3 yet, but I do have a synergy of 2 now and a new ability card. These ability cards can be very, very powerful. Okay? That is how a typical turn will go. You're going to move your guy out, and then you're going to you're going to get the benefit of the space that you go. You're going to get the bonus action of the of where you're going. So for instance, in the Chronoseum, drawing the stunt card, and then you're going to be able to play a single stunt card and then attempt a challenge. Okay, you want to attempt challenges so as you complete them. For instance, we'll go back over here real quick. So when Echo would complete this one, I would slide this under, and that makes it easier for me to fight certain monsters in the future, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to describe each of the spaces here in just a moment. Okay, so we'll say that this guy managed to do that, so we'll slip that under there. He would take his 3 dice, he'd put them over here on spent dice, so those would be done there. So right now he would have no active dice at all, and he will have used one of his shields. Okay, so we'll move on to the next turn. So we're just going to do these kind of quick here, so you guys can see. So we're going to use Echo as the second player, and Echo has decided that they want to go to Lamar Stadium. Lamara Stadium, excuse me. So he decides, you know what, those shells are really, really good, so he wants to go ahead and he wants to come over here. Oh, excuse me, I need to back up for a moment. Now, on Axel's turn, he completed a challenge, and he did it on the same space as this giant turtle judge figure, because who else would be a judge but a turtle in this type of aquatic world? Since I completed that with the on the judge's space, I would actually come up here and I would get to move this up 1 space. So he would actually get to move up here. He would be currently in the lead because he completed a challenge while on the judge's space. So the judge right here on this space, he would get to do that. So moving back over here to Echo, Echo would come over here. She would take the 2 little shells, add them there, and then they would advance the ship. In this case, they would advance the ship 1 space, and they would get a stunt card as well. And then they would get to attempt a challenge. And let's say again, we're going to go back to the player board, and let's say now Echo has this stunt here that's not going to benefit them, so they're not going to use that. But Echo here is going to do this one. So Echo is going to take these apprentice dice, and let me make sure I'm saying that correct. These novice dice, excuse me. These novice dice here will have all of the symbols, including 1 question mark and 1 blank side. So they would take that, they would take the die here, they would roll them together and see what they got. So right here they got a blank, they got a question mark, so that can be any symbol. They're going to cover up that one, and since they have some shells to spare, they're going to say yeah, they want to keep going. They actually want to have the extra shell. We're going to move that off. They were going to roll there again, and oh, that's another fantastic roll. So they got another blank, so they don't have to worry about that, and another question mark, so they completed that. So they would actually get to raise their spirit here by 2. 1, 2. So the spirit cards would affect these stunts. So now if Echo wanted to use the stunt card, as well as getting this ability to refresh a card here, they would also get the ability to gain a shell as well. Because their spirit is now 2, they get the first 2 abilities. So the higher the spirit goes, the more benefits that they get for that. Okay? Now, Echo would not gain a benefit because, or they would not move up on the champion track because the judge was not there. So that's fine. They would simply pass turn to the next player, which is going to be Cayman over here. I do like Cayman a lot. He's like a giant alligator dude. I really like that. So Cayman, just to keep things simple, is actually going to come over here, and he's going to come over to the Glass Forgers Guild. Sorry, I'm trying to read it upside down. He would also gain 2 of these guys, and he would be able to buy a card. Now, you're going to buy cards, these cards, and I'm going to go back to the player board, but you can buy these cards using food. So you see the food tokens there, the food icons, so you use food tokens to buy them. This particular item will let you raise your resilience by 1. So that's pretty cool. So he wants to do that. He's going to spend his 2 food. He's going to do that. So he got 2 shells. He's spending 2 food, and he's gaining this card. So this card would go away here. We'd refresh the market. He would raise his resilience up by 1, which gets it to 2. We put those over there. And then he would decide whether or not he wants to complete a challenge. Let's say he does. He does want to complete the challenge for moving targets. So again, he would take this, he would take this difficulty die, and then he would roll them. So this time he wasn't as lucky as his friends. He managed to roll one of those symbols, but he actually did roll an X as well. So he would have to spend 1 of these in order to cover it up and keep re-rolling. So you guys kind of understand how the challenges go. If he completes it, one of the things too is you only need to complete the 1. You don't need to complete the push it one. The push it one's only there as a kind of a bonus benefit if you complete it. You don't have to complete it in order to gain that card and slide it under your board. Okay, so we've gone through everybody's turn. Now I want to show you kind of how this would work. Now we wouldn't actually do this right now, but just so you guys can see it. It's Axel's turn, so Axel moves. Now, when Axel moves, he has to leave one of his action discs in that space that he was in. Now, that space cannot be occupied by anybody. Now, the locations can never be completely blocked off. Just going there will give you no benefit, as all the benefit spaces will be taken up. So it's not typical worker placement games where you're going to completely destroy your opponent's chance of taking an action. You'll always be able to take that action. You just won't gain a benefit for it. You'll still get the bonus action here. You just won't gain the bonus for the space there. Okay. So we're going to take Axel here. We're leaving an action tile, and we're going to come all the way over here to the fold. There's only 1 creature here, so we want to come here. That's going to give us 3 of these shells that we would add over here to him. And then we're going to go ahead and look at this guy on the player board camera. So this is this monster. This is the giant mud crab. So over here is where you're going to see the various dice that you need and symbols that you need in order to defeat this guy. This guy needs 2 blue dice. They have to be blue. They can't be the novice dice, okay? They have to be blue, and they have to be the synergy symbols. The 2 below it can be any dice, and they have to be the spirit symbol. These 2 can be any dice and can be the resilient, have to be the resilient symbol. Now, if you look here on this guy right here, it says you get a reward when defeating him. You gain an initiate die, and when he invades, you lose a die. I'll explain that in a moment. He also has a kill bonus of an additional benefit. Now, these 2 blue dice up here, if you cover those and do a damage to him on that, then you're going to move up on the champion's track just like Axel did when he performed that trick in front of the judge. Okay, so when you do a hit, you're going to take one of these little hit tokens that you have, and you're going to place it over that. Okay, that's showing that you've done damage to that. Now that he's taken that wound, you don't have to worry about that wound anymore. But that also means that nobody else can gain that benefit. Okay, so that's kind of how combat works. It works exactly the same as a challenge. You'll still take your dice. You'll still have the difficulty die depending on the turn number. You take the dice that you want to activate. You can activate up to 6 dice max, and the number of dice you can activate for free depends on your focus. So I can activate 1 dice for free, but I have to spend food to activate any others. So if I wanted to roll this additional die, it would cost him the food, and then I'd be rolling this. Now this one would be great to do against him right now, just if you're trying to avoid taking the invasion damage. but later on you guys will all team up and defeat these guys. Now each person that's going to damage, let's say Echo's done this, and Axel has done this one, and then Cayman comes in and fills up the rest of these with his. All three of them benefit from the reward, but only the guy who does the killing blow is going to get the kill bonus. And as long as you all have your markers here on his damage, you're not going to take the invasion damage. But if you don't, if he invades, you take the invasion detriment, which are always bad. They're really bad. In this case, losing a die can really impact you during the game. I mean, it's a die that's gone. I mean, sometimes it may not affect you too awful much. You can take a die that's already been spent and use that, but I mean, they can be really bad, and the hard monsters get really, really bad. Okay. So we kind of understand how that works now. So I've explained kind of each of the spaces here. So you know you're going to be using your kind of worker placement actions in order to take actions, and you know what you get to do on these turns. When you go to the fold, you're getting to fight the monster. There's no challenges at the fold itself, but there can be some cards that will affect what you do at the fold. So I am gonna trying to keep an eye on the messages from both YouTube and what's the other one? YouTube and Twitch. So sorry if I seem a little bit distracted right this second. I'm just trying to do this real fast. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So you kind of understand how a turn goes. So you're each going to do that until you can't take actions anymore. Then each of you pass. Okay. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to do the final part of the round. The final part of the round, the first thing you do is you're going to see whether or not a monster invades. So you're going to take this D8, you're going to roll it. Depending on the number that you roll, a monster will either invade or either no monsters will invade if you roll well. The closer these monsters get, which is the further down this board here, the closer they get, the easier it is for them to activate. Like here I roll a 5, so this space would activate, so this turn this guy would not activate. He wouldn't do anything this turn. But then he would slide down and we'd add another monster into this space. Keeping any damage would stay on him until he's dead. Now, if there was already a monster here, then this monster would escape. And if it escapes, then you all, if you haven't done any damage to it, then you actually move down on this track here. So you lose champion points if you haven't dealt damage to an enemy that runs away. So not good. You really don't want to have them do that, okay? Then after that, you're going to move, you're going to pick up all of your things here. So I'd pick up my 2. We'd move the round marker, which would then take away the this action die, this white threat die. We won't use anymore. We'd switch to the yellow threat die, which is worse. It only has one blank side, and it's got a side that has 2 X's on it, or it has 2 blank sides, but it has a side with 2 X's on it. So that's really, really bad. Then we would each get an additional action token, which would give us another action space. The judge would move around, and then we would get to do something pretty cool. So I'm going to move over here to the player board, and your spent dice here, depending on your resilience, you get to pick a number of dice, and you get to refresh them and then upgrade them. So one of the things that I really like about this game is this right here. So this here is the novice die. Whenever you have the novice die and you upgrade it, you're going to get to upgrade it either to the initiate die that is red or blue. So this die that I'm going to go ahead and reset here I can upgrade to a red die, or I could upgrade it to a blue die, okay? And then from there, you're basically picking your path. You go from initiate to elite, and then you go from elite to guild. Going from initiate to elite just makes the die even better. It actually turns it into one of these dice here with the black and the blue symbol. It has, like this one would have resilience and synergy on them, and every side has something. There are no blank sides on these guys, which are really, really cool. These guys here would have the focus and the spirit, and they're the same thing, no blank sides. But then you get into the guild dice, and the guild dice are amazing. So when you go up to the guild, you actually have to choose what symbol you're going to go for. If you're going blue, you're going to choose either synergy or you're going to choose resilience. And again, none of these sides are blank, but each of these has 2 question marks And no matter what die type it is, that question mark can be any symbol. So even if this one couldn't possibly roll a spirit, this question mark could always be a spirit with this die. So upgrading your dice is really, really interesting and really, really fun. I love this player aid. It shows you what all the sides of the dice are. It shows you everything you need to know about upgrading your dice. That is really cool. Okay. So that is a full turn, okay? Now, we didn't see all the actions, but you got to see kind of what everything does. You have the boat here moving around Lamara Stadium and giving you an additional benefit of where it lands. You have guys like Axel who can move that boat more. There's even action space that lets you move the boat again. You have the Chronoseum, which is going to have, it has its own things. It has mainly stunt cards. You're always going to get a stunt card whenever you go there. You have Drusker Ring, which you're always going to get to buy from the market, or if you can't afford anything, you gain a food, which can help you afford things later on, which is really nice. Then you have the Fold, which is where you have your enemies. Now, there's also Anchor's Bay, which is part of the expansion. I don't currently have that. It is on order, so I should be able to take a quick peek at that one, do a video of that one, unless you guys really ask for it really hard. If you guys ask for it, then I will definitely do that. Thank you very much, Bowser. I'm not the champ, man. I'm only a champ because I learned from watching you, and that's why I'm a champ. So, to the real OG Bowser. Love you, bro. But we do have, I won't be doing that unless you guys really want to see it. If you guys want to see a full playthrough of this one, well, we'll talk about that here in a second, if whether or not you guys actually want to see something like that. But let's go ahead and let's move on. And we're going to start talking about some of the ways that I look at board games and how I kind of quantify how I feel about them. So the thing that I always start with is I always start with the negative. So let's go ahead and get the negative out of the way first, so that way we can talk about the other things. Now, the negatives I'm going to talk about right now don't really fall into any of the other kind of categories that I have, and I'm only really going to cover two right now. One of them is I don't understand this. I don't like this. You have your standee here, okay? You have your little guy here, and then you have your action discs. Now, when you move, you have to place and leave an action disc. If you cannot leave an action disc, then you can't take an action. It really feels like you should have one less action disc and just have one where you leave and then one where you move your guy, and then just that's it. Instead of having, well, you have an extra action disc, but why? The game says you have to move the action disc with you. If you can't take an action. It's like, well, then that just seems weird. Why not either give us more actions per turn? And maybe I'm wrong about this. If I'm wrong, I hope I am. If I am, I will retract everything I'm saying about this. But it just feels weird. When I have these two action discs, I really feel like I should be able to move, take an action, move, take an action, and then move again with just the standee to take another action. I mean, if that's the case, like, you can just leave one of the actions discs out and literally just have one and then move with your guy, and that's it. So maybe I'm wrong, but everything that I've seen says that I'm playing the game properly, and that you start the game with only two actions, gaining 3 on turn 2 and 4 on turn 4, but it really feels like you should have one more action each turn because of the way the action discs work. It's just a little thing that I find kind of convoluted and a little confusing, and they don't need to have that. They literally could have just said, leave an action disc behind. If you can't leave an action disc behind, you cannot leave from your space. Like, boom, that would have been simple to me. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's just how I feel. The only other problem that I have that I'm going to talk about outside of this does kind of fall under components, but it's just the board space. I really feel like the game is gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But just the amount of space that this board takes is wow. For what you're doing in this game, for the type of game that it is a table hog. It really eats up your space, and it didn't need to. Is the thing is, you could have you know, scaled down on some of these pieces. Lamar Stadium, I mean, everything looks great, but there is a lot of dead negative space on some of these, especially the Chronoseum, especially the Fold, especially Drusker Ring. I really feel like you could have made those smaller. Why does this need to be so thick? The Champion's Path. Why does it need to be so thick? It could have been much, much thinner. I mean, yeah, it looks great, but it's, I mean, for me, who board space can be at a premium, and other people that board space can be a premium for, it's not good. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to slide past those, and we're going to move right into my remarks. And right now we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about components and art quality. Now, I've kind of already, and sorry, I'm going to be making sure that my stuff shows up here, but I've kind of already let the cat out of the bag that game is beautiful. Game is gorgeous. I mean, just looking over here at the player board, like you can look at Echo. Echo, just him, makes the game worth playing. He is so cute. I mean, look at that guy. Look how cute that guy is. Oh my God, he's so adorable. Oh, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I haven't even read the history card because every time I pick up anything on there, I just want to stare at just how good and cute Echo is. He's so adorable. I want to squeeze him. It's amazing. All the board art is fantastic. The components are great. I'm going to lift up a player board here. The cardboard is thick and sturdy. These mats come assembled. I didn't have to, like, thank the stars for the first time in a long time. I didn't have to take the, you know, the little wheels and put them on myself, punch everything out. Like, these came like this. That is fantastic. I love that. Thank you so much for not making me have to do a whole bunch of extra work for the, you know, how gorgeous your game looks. So like I really liked Praga. I did a review of Praga. I really liked it, but I had to assemble that board. Why? Just have it like this already. Like, I understand that keeps the cost down, you know, to a certain extent, but there are times when something like this, just the quality control behind it is fantastic. It's just great. All of the cardboard pieces are great. The dice are great. They're etched. They're not, or no, I'm sorry, the stickers on them feel like they're really good. They're not just going to peel off. They may not be etched dice, but they're very, very high quality. I like that a lot. They roll well. They're not the ones that are super weirdly rounded that just seem just kind of like bleh. They don't really roll all that good. These roll very, very well. There's only a single miniature in the whole thing, and it's the round marker, but that's a thing that they didn't have to do 3D, but they did, and it looks fantastic. I mean, there's no reason for me to paint this game up, but I'm going to paint this piece. This piece is going to get a paint job, and it's going to look cool because the rest of the game looks so good. Aside from my gripes about how the action discs work in the table space, if you have the table space, oh God, this game deserves it. I mean, it's so big, but it looks so good. Like these tarot cards for them, they didn't need to be this big. They could have made the picture smaller. They could have scooched it in and put it on a standard card, but they didn't. Fantastic art, though. I mean, it all looks so good. The game is opulent in the max, and that's fine. The games can be opulent, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. Especially when you pull it off this well. I mean, even the linen fin, the cards just feel amazing too. Everything, there's not one knock against the components themselves that I can say. I don't mind the standees. I really don't. I have no problem with the standees. Yeah, if they had miniatures, cool, but it'd probably drive up the price point even higher than what it already is. And sitting at $60, it's not the cheapest game in the world, but it's definitely worth what you get. The component quality for me, and the art style especially, Rock is this thing in the stratosphere. This one gets an A+ for me. Definitely an A+. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we've talked about the components and the art. Let's go ahead and talk about the fun and the replayability. So the fun factor, of course, that's very subjective. Replayability tends not to be. That can be more objective. This game, we'll talk about replayability first. I played this game 3 times in one night. Had a blast doing it. Each time we did it like, yep, okay, let's play again. I'm going to switch characters. I'm going to do the where I can randomly take my starter deck, take 3 cards, decide which one I want, and use that one, and that's my starting card. So and then that changes like how you're going to play the game, how you're going to tackle everything. We even got to where the starting challenges, we didn't do the starting challenges. We decided, you know what, we're not going to do those. We want to see how the game plays if we just pass out 3 random challenges to each person. Make sure that they're on each of these. I mean, that was kind of a house rule thing that we did, but that was cool. Like, and it worked. It worked very well. It made us have to tackle things differently. The first round of the game, I wasn't like, ooh, I want to try to complete 2 challenges. I was like, ooh, I really have to try to complete 1 challenge. You know, because these guys, all of these starting challenges take like 2 or 3 symbols, while some of these regular challenges will take 4 or 5 symbols. So you really got to decide like how you want to tackle these things. That's really cool. The game has, with the 4 characters, with them playing differently, them having a bunch of different abilities, and you're never going to see them all in a single game, so it really makes you want to dive back in and play again and again. Even the monster cards, there's a bunch of different monsters. There's different, the challenges, there's the higher challenge cards that are even more challenging. Then you have the higher tier monsters, which are even more challenging. So the game starts the difficulty low and really ramps it up from there, and makes you want to play the game over and over and try to learn the game, or try to play the game in each way and play with each character. Because I still haven't got to play Echo yet. I played Axel and I played Cayman, but I haven't got to play Echo yet because somebody, I'm not saying names here, but somebody played Echo all 3 games that I played and just kind of broke my heart just a little bit. But that's okay. I'll get over it one day, just not today. So yeah, for replayability, there's a lot here. For fun factor, this game has card drafting, this game has dice drafting, this game has worker placement, dice rolling, action selection. It's got it all. If you like any of those things, this game has a little something for you. And the way that it puts everything out, there's a lot of rules to the game, but they're very kind of clearly laid out, and they're very simple to understand, so it's easy to find where the fun is. Your starting character, he'll also give you a sheet that tells you like how to play the character, like what's the character good at, especially with the starting with your starting ability, like what kind of things do you want to do during the game. The game itself, I haven't been bored playing it yet. I really like that. I was a little disappointed that the 2-player variant does have a dummy player, and I typically don't like dummy players in games, and this one's not really an exception to that, but it's required. If you didn't have the dummy player, you'd have too much free reign of all the spaces, and that wouldn't be good. So while that's a necessary evil, it's not something that I really appreciate too much. Dummy players, to me, always kind of take some of the fun out of the game. But with fun factor and replayability on this one, I would give it a solid B. And the reason for that is I can see this having an upper limit on the number of times that you can play. And once you gravitate towards a certain character and you've seen all that character can do, if you're not attracted to the other characters and want to play them, that can kind of hit your ability to want to replay the game, and it can also hit how much fun you want to have in the game. With any dice game, you're also going to have that time when the dice are just not going to come up your way, and through no fault of your own, you're just going to get stomped into the dirt, and you're going to lose against monsters. You're just going to keep losing dice because you don't have enough shells, or you're just rolling badly. And that's the thing about some dice games, and this one mitigates it pretty well because it doesn't have too much in the way of just utter punishment. But if you got bad dice luck like I do, then I can definitely see you having a poor time of this if luck turns against you. Okay. So let's go into the rules and what I call the teach. Rules complexity is a big thing. I read a lot of rule books, so I do have some thoughts on this rule book. I can tell you it's not a very good rule book. I'm not a fan of this rule book. I don't like the way that it's set out. I'd say the rule book is very cool. It's high quality. It's got like literal comic book panels in it that teaches you that runs you through a turn, which that stuff's great. But then there's little things that it doesn't tell you. Like forever, I could not find where it told me what starting challenges you start with. It literally says in the rule book to put them aside for now. You'll need them later, and then I couldn't find where it told me that I need them. I assume, okay, you need these starting challenges. That's what you start with. But it's a tiny little blurb in there that tells you, like, yeah, you need those now, instead of making it readily apparent of when you need those. The way you set up the board, it looks kind of convoluted because it's just got letters and numbers on over everything, and it's got different color numbers on stuff. So some of that's kind of meh. The rule book didn't really impress me. I had to read it a few times, and I did end up listening to some parts of the John Gets Games video in order to answer some of the questions that I had. And even he had a lot of annotations. Typically, he doesn't have as many annotations as he had in this video as he did in this video, because this game suffers from one of the things that a lot of Kickstarter games suffer through, is just poor, the displaying of the rules. It's that did not instill me with confidence on how I learned the game. I did not enjoy learning this game as I typically enjoy learning a lot of other games. On the flip side of that, this game is easy to teach. Once you get people to sit around and they get over the shock and awe of just how beautiful the game is, teaching it is quite simple. Besides the whole, again, the action disc thing, besides that, which came up in 2 of the games that I played with 2 different people, that they're like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, I know, I agree. It's just, this is how the game is played. Besides that, everything else is very, very simple. You understand, you go to a space, the symbols are very clear, all the iconography of the game is very, very clear, and you can see it from the other side of the table, which is a benefit of the large footprint. But again, you have everything that I need to teach the game is right here in front of me. It's very simple. I wish there was something on the player aid for the end of turn, instead of having the end of turn in the book and not in here. I don't get that. They have the scoring guide here. I don't need the scoring guide. I need the scoring guide only at the end of the game. I need the end of round 4 times during the game. Like, come on. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Please. Put the end of the round thing here, so if, I don't want to miss anything. Yes, you guys have some nice symbols here, like all of these nice symbols to look, but I don't want to have to look at every single space on the board to see if I'm missing anything. I don't want to have to do that. So just end of round right here instead of scoring. That's it. Other than that, like I said, all of the graphical design stuff and the disposition of rules from the rule book are very poor, but the game is very fun to teach. I really enjoyed teaching the game. I had a fun time teaching the game. I just didn't have any fun learning of the game. So for me, that's those 2 things being like literally opposite ends of the spectrum. It's going to have to sit that at a B. It's going to sit at a B for me. So I mean, that's the way that one's going to go for that. So we've talked about everything. My final thoughts of the game are, despite my few niggling quibbles about the game itself, for me, Tidal Blades Heroes of the Reef is going to sit at a very solid B+. And if you watched my channel before, you know a game has to sit at least at the level of a B in order to make it in my collection. So Tidal Blades Heroes of the Reef, sitting at a B+, is definitely has a spot in my collection, and will actually be replacing a game that has a similar kind of adventure-like feel that I'm not going to name right now because that's not what I'm here for, but it will be replacing that game in my collection and will have a spot in my collection going forward. I said it earlier, I do have the expansion on order. It's a small expansion. It adds the Anchor's Bay, or I believe it's the Anchor's Bay. It adds that, which adds some new mechanics where you take these tokens, and if you have the most of those at the end of the game, then you lose points. So you don't. But the actions that are on that space are super, super powerful. It adds new market cards. It adds some new challenge cards. It adds a bunch of good stuff. So I'll definitely be picking that up as well, because I am definitely going to be playing this game quite a few more times. Again, it's definitely in my collection. So let me make sure I don't have any other questions about anything on here. If you do have a question on anything and I haven't been able to get to your question, or I haven't mentioned anything, or I got something wrong, especially if I got something wrong, definitely please leave a comment on this video. Send us an email. I can actually pull up our email. Not that one. That one. I can pull up our email right here. Please email us at DysonDudes, the number 9 @gmail.com. Definitely do that for us, please. If you guys want to see some videos of this, if you guys want to see us play this on the channel, let us know. We do have kind of a tight schedule moving forward on what games we're going to be playing. Dice Throne is coming up on Friday. We got Dungeons & Dragons tomorrow. So if you guys want to see other videos like for this, definitely let us know so that way we can work it in, so that way you guys can see it. Again, I did have a lot of fun with this one. This one is definitely going to be in my collection moving forward. Before I put up the title screen, I am going to talk about March, because of Dice Throne and even this guy. I am going to try to focus on more dicey style games for the month of March for my board game reviews and our playthroughs. If there's anything in particular that you guys want to see us play, if you guys want to see us review anything, if there's anything like that, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Let us email. I'm babbling. I'm saying the same thing over and over. Sorry, I am rather tired. It's been a long day. But that's going to go ahead and do it for me. I'm going to bring up the board game info with my final scores. And I'll leave that up for about a minute before I stop the video. So guys, thank you so very, very much for joining me. I will see you all tomorrow night for our Wednesday edition of Dungeons & Dragons for the Guns N' Roll campaign. Until then, remember to keep rolling dice. Good night.